You have seen Saturn. Even if you have never looked through a telescope, you know what it looks like. Those rings, tilted, glowing, hanging in space like something that shouldn't be possible but is. Children draw Saturn with rings. It is the planet with rings. That is what Saturn is. But here is what no one tells you when you are young, staring at pictures in a book or on a screen. Those rings are not supposed to be there. They are temporary. And temporary, in the language of the universe, means they are already dying. Right now, as you read this, Saturn is losing its rings. Not slowly in the way mountains erode or coastlines shift. Quickly, 10,000 kilograms of ring material every single second is raining down onto the planet below. That is the weight of a fully loaded truck falling into Saturn's atmosphere every second. Every hour, enough ice to fill an Olympic swimming pool vanishes. Every day, enough material to build a small moon disappears forever. This has a name. Scientists call it ring rain. It sounds beautiful. It is not. It is Saturn eating itself. The rings you see in photographs, the ones that made you stop scrolling, or put down your book, or lean closer to the telescope, they will not be there forever. In 100 million years, they will be gone. Completely. Saturn will be a bare, smooth ball of gas, identical to Jupiter, indistinguishable in silhouette. The one thing that made it different, the one thing that made it Saturn, will have dissolved into atmosphere and memory. 100 million years sounds safe. It sounds like forever. It is not. Dinosaurs walked the Earth 65 million years ago. If they had looked up, if a Tyrannosaurus had somehow understood telescopes and physics and the night sky, Saturn's rings would have been brighter then than they are now. Thicker, heavier, more. In another 65 million years, something else might walk this planet, look up, and see a ringless Saturn. And they will never know what we know. They will never see what we have seen. We are alive at the only moment in Saturn's history when the rings are visible and humans exist to see them. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is the universe showing you something before it takes it away. Let's go back. Let's understand what the rings actually are, because they are not what you think. You imagine solid structures, bands of ice, frozen in place, spinning around Saturn like a halo. That is wrong. The rings are a graveyard. They are millions, billions of individual pieces of ice and rock, each one orbiting Saturn independently. Some chunks are as small as grains of sand. Others are the size of houses. Mountains, all of them moving at thousands of kilometers per hour, packed so tightly together that from far away they look solid. But get close, fly a spacecraft through them like Cassini did, and you see the truth. They are a storm, a blizzard that never ends. Collisions every second, fragments breaking, dust rising, and through it all, gravity pulling everything slowly, inevitably, downward. The rings are only 30 meters thick in some places. 30 meters. If you shrank Saturn down to the size of a beach ball, the rings would be thinner than a piece of paper. You could snap them with your fingers, and yet they stretch outward for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The width of the rings is greater than the distance from the Earth to the Moon. Stand on one edge and you could not see the other side, even with the best telescope ever made. This is the first thing that breaks your brain about Saturn. The rings are impossibly thin and impossibly wide at the same time. But here is the second thing, the thing that changes everything. The rings are young. For centuries, scientists assumed the rings were ancient. 4.5 billion years old, born alongside Saturn when the solar system was still forming. That made sense. The rings looked eternal, permanent. How could something so vast be temporary? Then Cassini flew into Saturn's atmosphere in 2017, and before it died, it measured the rings. It weighed them. It analyzed the dust, the ice, the chemistry, and the data came back wrong. The rings are no more than 100 million years old, maybe younger. Saturn is 4.5 billion years old. Its rings are 100 million. That means Saturn has existed for 98% of its life without rings. For almost the entire history of the solar system, Saturn looked like Jupiter. Smooth, ordinary, forgettable. And then, sometime, in the last 100 million years, something happened. No one knows exactly what. The leading theory is this: a moon came too close. It crossed the Roche limit, the invisible line where Saturn's gravity becomes stronger than the moon's ability to hold itself together. And the moon, maybe the size of our own moon, maybe smaller, no one is sure, was ripped apart, torn into 1 trillion pieces. Its body shattered and spread out into orbit, into rings, into the thing we see today. So when you look at Saturn, you are looking at the remains of a moon that died. The rings are a corpse. And now, gravity is finishing the job. The ice particles in the rings are not smooth. They carry an electric charge from the sun's radiation and Saturn's magnetic field. That charge attracts dust. The dust makes them heavier. Heavier objects fall faster. So the rings are being pulled inward, spiraling down into Saturn's upper atmosphere, where they vaporize into gas and disappear. This is ring rain. Cassini watched it happen. The spacecraft detected water molecules in Saturn's atmosphere that should not have been there. They were coming from above, from the rings, falling, always falling, 10,000 kilograms per second. To put that in perspective, the International Space Station weighs 420,000 kilograms. Saturn loses more than that every minute. Every 42 seconds, the equivalent of the entire ISS is erased from existence. You cannot see it. The particles are too small, the distances too vast. But it is happening. Right now, as you sit here, as you breathe, the universe is deleting Saturn's rings in real time, and there is nothing anyone can do to stop it. But 100 million years still sounds far away, doesn't it? Still sounds safe. So let's make it closer. The rings are disappearing at a specific rate. Scientists have measured it. 10,000 kilograms per second from ring rain. But that is not the only way Saturn is losing its rings. There are other processes: bombardment from micrometeorites, interactions with Saturn's moons, gravitational shepherding that flings material out of orbit entirely. When you add all of those together, the timeline changes. Some estimates say the rings will be gone in 300 million years. Others say 100 million. A few models suggest it could happen even faster, tens of millions of years. No one knows for sure, but every estimate agrees on one thing. This is the end. Saturn will lose its rings. Not might, will. And when it does, the solar system will lose the only planet with visible rings. Uranus has rings. Neptune has rings. Jupiter has a faint, dusty ring. But none of them matter. None of them are bright enough to see without machines. Saturn's rings are the only ones visible from Earth with a basic telescope. They are the only rings humans have ever seen with their own eyes. When they are gone, they are gone. There will be no other Saturn. Not in this solar system. Not in your lifetime. Not in the lifetime of your species. You are living in the narrow window of time when Saturn has rings and humans exist to witness them. If you were born 100 million years earlier, Saturn would have been bare. If you are born 100 million years later, if anything is born 100 million years later, Saturn will be bare again. We are here in the middle, in the brief flash of cosmic time when the rings exist. And we almost missed it. Humans have only known about Saturn's rings for 400 years. Galileo saw them first in 1610, but his telescope was too weak. He thought Saturn had ears. It took 50 years before someone realized they were rings. For most of human history, tens of thousands of years of looking up at the night sky, Saturn's rings were invisible to us. We did not have the tools. We did not know. And in another few hundred years, when the rings are thinner, dimmer, harder to see, future humans might look up and wonder why we made such a big deal about them. Then they will be gone, and no one will ever see them again. Let's zoom out now. All the way out, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the observable universe. Each galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars. Many of those stars have planets. Some of those planets probably have rings. Saturn is not special, except that it is, because you are here, on this planet, in this solar system, at this exact moment in time, when Saturn has rings bright enough to see, and you have eyes capable of seeing them. The odds of that are so small they stop being numbers and start being poetry. If the rings had formed 100 million years earlier, they would already be gone. If they had formed 100 million years later, they would not exist yet. If Earth had formed in a different part of the galaxy, you would never know Saturn existed. If humans had evolved 1 million years earlier, we would not have had telescopes. 1 million years later, the rings might already be too faint to notice. Everything had to happen exactly when it did, and it did. You are not just alive during the age of Saturn's rings. You are alive during the only age when Saturn's rings exist, and humanity is capable of understanding what they are. You are alive in the single narrow century when we have sent robots to Saturn, when we have measured the rings, when we have watched them die in real time, and understood what we were watching. This will never happen again. Not because the universe is cruel. The universe does not care about cruelty or kindness. It simply moves. Things form. Things fall apart. Moons shatter. Rings dissolve. Stars explode. Galaxies collide. And in the middle of all that chaos, on a small blue planet orbiting a medium-sized star, a species of animals built machines to look at a gas giant 4 planets away and said, "That is beautiful. That is what makes this hurt. Not that the rings are dying. Everything dies. The sun will die. The earth will die. The universe itself will eventually go dark and cold and still. But the rings are dying now. In your lifetime, Saturn will lose measurable amounts of its rings. The Saturn your grandchildren see will be slightly less bright than the Saturn you see today, and their grandchildren will see even less. And one day, so far in the future that it becomes meaningless to imagine, someone will see the last fragment of ice fall into Saturn's atmosphere and vanish. And that will be it. The rings will be a story, a myth, something humans used to see when they looked up. We will tell our descendants about them. We will show them pictures. We will say, "This was real. This happened. Saturn had rings." And they will believe us the same way you believe in dinosaurs. Not because they saw them, but because we left evidence. Cassini's data will survive longer than the rings themselves. The images we have taken, the measurements we have recorded, the science we have done, all of it, will outlast the thing it was studying. Future civilizations will look at our data and know what Saturn's rings looked like, even though the rings themselves will be gone. We are not just witnessing the rings. We are documenting them. We are building a monument to something that is disappearing. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that is all we can do. Watch, measure, remember. Because the universe does not pause. It does not wait for you to be ready. It does not ask permission before it takes things away. Saturn's rings are vanishing. You cannot stop it. You cannot slow it down. You cannot save them. But you can look up. You can find Saturn in the night sky. It is visible right now, just after sunset, brighter than most stars. You can point a telescope at it, even a cheap one, and see the rings with your own eyes. Not in a picture, not on a screen. Your eyes, your moment. Because this is it. This is the only time in the history of the universe when you and Saturn's rings exist together. One day, the rings will be gone. One day, you will be gone. But right now, tonight, if you look up, they are still there. Tilted, glowing, hanging in space like something that shouldn't be possible, but is.